Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of A Talk with the Galactics. Today, on episode 2, I will look around and see who is actually here. Sometimes this is off the cuff a little bit, so I will look around and see who in the galactic groups wishes to speak for a little while on their species. This is actually good that this one appeared today. This would be on the Lyran people. So I have two that are with me today. I don't know who wishes to channel or speak. Can't be both of you. Let's see. We have two Lyrans that are here, which are Phalal and Sorlan. So, let's see who wishes to speak. Okay, really? Sorlan? Okay. You haven't spoken in a long time. Usually it's Phalal that speaks for the Lyran people. So, and at least there's not as many bugs out this time, so it's actually fairly calm. Except for the wind. Good day. My name is Sorlan. You know my people as Lyran, or the cat species. I will make my contact brief since my species is under fire by your military-industrial complex. Our channelings must be brief because of this. I, Sorlan, and my friend Phalal here are from two different groupings of Lyran people. I am from an outpost known as the Sonorian Outpost in the Cirrus star cluster. This eventually named your Sonoran Desert because of the fact that my Lyran people settled to this area of your American Southwest, the Sonoran Desert area. There are two types here. Mine, which are a variety of different cat colorings, such as desert tones, and there is another one that is more hostile, which is of a black panther-esque tone with golden and green eyes. Those are to be avoided. Now, I happen to live within your inner earth in this said area, but as I said, the outpost of which I came from is known as the Sonorian Outpost. This was an outpost that was established, more of a breakaway civilization, if you will, after our homeworld of Lyra was originally destroyed. We are a highly technologically advanced culture. However, when we come here to your planet, we must mask this technology because it is highly sought after by your military-industrial complex as well as the Cabal. Yes, these are two separate things, but the temptation of mankind tends to, as you say, gang agley, I believe the phrase is. Now, my friend Phalal here is of a different grouping that is from the original homeworld. But did I not just say that that original homeworld was destroyed? Yes, it was. But per your Mandela effect, the reversal of some of the harvester damage that has taken place from the old wars has begun to reverse in nature. Planets that were not in the sky are now back in the sky. Our world was invaded by these harvesters that you know of as the Dark Anunnaki, or the Darkness, or the Controllers. They blew our planet up because they could not claim its resources and they could not claim our DNA. However, they had planet-destroying weaponry that they used on our world. This is no more, since our planet is back in the skies again. We have come to this time frame and your current spectrum in order to help along the current energies that are needed to be helped along, as well as find some of our lost brethren that got stuck into your incarnation cycles in antiquity. We have found nearly all of them, with the exception of a few that have been lost to the ethers, as you humans would say. We also entered in your ancient Egyptian period, in eras in which humans were in control and harvesters were in control. Pre-Osiris and post-Osiris, humans would say. In the post-Osiris period, we tried to help humankind fight against the harvester intrusion, or the spindly intrusion, as you would say. However, this did not always pan out as we had hoped. Now, to backtrack things a little, there is a subject that we both wish to touch on, but dear Fei Lao will have to continue from this point forward. So, I will allow this. Dear ones, you know me as Fei Lao of Lyra. What I will say must be brief. Your current, I will say, colony of Mars that your Cabal elite inhabit, as well as the cloning facility that is therein. I will say this about this, and only about a specific portion of this history. The face on Mars, that you so call it, depicts one of my kind as well as one of your kind. Yes, my kind were once there on Mars before the fall began, before the elite began to rise to power on this world, and that in many different time frames. This may sound confusing, what I am about to say, but the apex of a time fracture once stood as a pinnacle on your dear Mars. We know it by a different name, but I will stick with Mars thusly. The face, the reasoning it depicts both species is because once, a long time ago, our two species worked together on your red planet. Before it was the red planet, it was a thriving metropolis, very much like your Earth. It looked very much the same. Most of Mars was more of a desert, very much like your Sedona area. In this, there were other areas that were lush in nature, but the majority of the planet was desert. Very much like your Sedona area or your Moab, Utah area. However, there was water sources that supplied to all the outlying colonies. There was one great colony and several outlying, you would call them small towns, since Mars is much smaller than Earth. In this, it had a thick atmosphere, and many species thrived there that had different air and liquid needs. My species, as I've said, walked beside humans before all of it hit the fan, you would say. A testament to this union is indeed the face on Mars. This is why it is so large. This is why it has stood the test of time. Because it was a symbol of brotherhood between my species and your own. This is a symbol that we wish to continue, as you say, advertising. So remember, the face is both of our species, representing the oneness and trade and barter that our species used to share. This is all the further I can go on this subject, but we can entertain questions.
Thank you. I know a lot of people will appreciate the fact that you brought up the face on Mars and understand it better. So I'm just curious. At that time, when you were having colonies on Mars and working with humans, beside your home world, were you on Maldek? Were you on Earth? Were you in multiple places throughout the solar system?
Yes, indeed, we were on Maldek and its outlying constructs. We had many colonies on your Earth throughout the centuries, even post harvester intrusion, and we had several colonies on the world you know of as Mars.
So when your homeworld was destroyed, and then you were left with where your people were in outlying areas, um, at that moment when all of that happened, were you all really targeted heavily by the harvesters? I think it seems to me that I don't want to say hiding. Hiding's not a really good word. But the fact that you really do kind of keep back. Most people really don't, I think, feel your presence like they do others. So I'm just curious how that occurred.
Yes, we were as refugees, you would say. We were heavily targeted and still are targeted by the remaining harvesters. Since they have aligned with your governmental complexes, they too hunt us. And there is a, as you say, shoot to kill order out on any Lyran species or subspecies on your world and in your system. It is because we heavily opposed the harvester intrusions in the ancient past, as well as at the moment in time. We continue to do so that we may walk with humans once again, as we did in ancient times.
So again, and I just really want to make this clear because this kind of was my understanding, so I want to validate it. That not that there weren't other species that the harvesters certainly would be willing to kill, but you guys specifically were targeted and specifically a shoot to kill rather than maybe others who would have been captured and then utilized. The goal for you is you all have so much of a threat towards the harvesters that there is no trying to change you. They just want you dead.
Yes, this is an unfortunate thing. It is because in antiquity we opposed them so heavily and began to free humans from their bonds in ancient times. We also informed humans of what they were up against in ancient times. And since knowledge is power, it ingrained into the genetic memory of humans. This angered the harvester aristocracy, you would say, and we became even more hunted than before. But further out in the galaxy in ancient times, we also, as we said, stood side by side with humans. Humans and us helped battle these harvesters in the past. There are two main species now that the harvesters focus very heavily on, and any other species that aids them. This would be us and humanity.
Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that in a little bit more depth. So I am also curious now that your homeworld is in existence again. When the homeworld came back from the Mandela effect, did some of the people were there people your people still did they come back as well or some of them? And then how are your different colonies reaching back down to your homeworld?
In this, there are a multitude of timelines at work that you know of. Time all exists at once, and everything operates at one moment in time. So, integrating our world back within the breath of the multiverse was an easy fix. However, the people did indeed come back at the moment just before the harvesting began. However, the ones that did not come back were the ones that were claimed by the harvesters and dumped here on Earth. In this, the outlying colonies rejoiced in the fact that the original homeworld was back in the skies, and now all Lyrans, no matter what timeline they sit on, all communicate as one.
Oh, wow. That's great. Um, that's really great to hear. So I am curious, since there was a separation in color. Apparently, there are clans or black Lyrans that you guys are saying really are the ones that should be avoided. I think it's pretty interesting. So I want to compare it to the stories of ancient Egypt because it's the cats were mentioned back then, but most of all of the depiction of them are black cats. Is there a relationship at all?
Yes, indeed. This is a version of us from a different timeline that was more of a regression. This particular version, the harvester is located in a different timeline other than our own and your own. This particular version then was integrated into your ancient Egyptian fairy tale, you would say, as being good. But this particular version of our people is anything but. They were harvested ages and ages ago from that other timeline. Some were rotted. This is not their fault specifically. However, some of that group, nearly all of that particular group, actually wanted to aid the harvesters. In this, they began a greater regression in their mentality. And now that particular version of them are more akin to a wild animal in their mentality than an evolved being.
Okay. So now, under the conditions, obviously, that you guys have to be extremely careful, how are you literally now working with humanity? Are you actively trying to channel through people, or are you just trying to put out information? What are you guys actually doing?
Yes, we are actively trying to communicate in a limited fashion with humanity on more of a quantum level or idea level. This will spark what is known to us as the thought renaissance. We actually aid in creativity, aid in music, aid in writing, and all forms of art and science. In this, we also operate and work with other, as you say, ET species in this endeavor, such as the Homo of your Spain colony. In this, that particular species welcomes in all other benevolent races for this same endeavor. However, they are more fixated on the sciences, but I will not go into them currently. We work with humanity to help spark the pilot light once again in all of these other endeavors. The thought renaissance, for this reason, is soon at hand because humans are learning from these ideas and these new energies.
So I just find that interesting because Chris is always usually seeing an entity or having conversations. I think people do really underestimate that they may be having communications or being given information by groups like yourselves or by data nodes or by something, and they're just taking this in, but they really don't know where it's coming from, or they're just thinking they've had flashes of brilliance, which I'm not saying that isn't a flash of brilliance, but I don't think that people really understand how much information is coming into them or being directed to them by beings like yourself or whatever, without the need to know that you're doing it, but that you really are very active in this process.
Yes, most certainly we are active. Granted, we are merely the pilot light. We open the door that humanity eventually walks through. However, we are taking care of the immediate overage that is around people. We do not interfere with human free will, but we do raise the energy or spike the energy, some would say, to allow certain downloads to come in on the quantum level. This is aiding humanity on a level that does not interfere with free will.
Okay. So I know you guys have limited time. This may be one of our shorter visits. I am very curious, though, again, although there's a shoot to kill order out with you, just to kind of recap, the military really may be out to capture who they can because they want to get the technology knowledge. Is that what you guys were saying?
Yes, but also on a telepathic level, it is the harvesters that actually influence their behavior. However, some of those humans did actually want this particular role. This is something people should not forget. Their servants often actually wish this because they wish to have what they consider to be a superior overlord. This shoot to kill order was actually dreamed up by a group of humans.
Well, that's interesting. So, do you find, in comparison to another group we just recently spoke to, do you are you guys reaching out to any particular group of humans who are organized? Should say an organized group. Could be a military group or it could be others. Are you guys actively reaching out to anyone to provide any sort of technology knowledge?
Not at this time, no. We wish to do this. However, if humans pick up on our technological knowledge through quantum entanglement, so be it. But we are not providing direct technological and scientific advancements. But it is in the back of our minds and in our hearts. So if humans should pick up on these ideas that are floating in the ethers, you would say, then so be it.
Okay. So thank you. That really helps clarify a lot. So I know we're limited, so we always want to give the floor. What is the last words of wisdom or encouragement, anything that you would like to pass on to everyone?
Yes, in this, no, my people, the Lyran people, no matter which timeline or colony that they reside from, are at the backs of humanity. In this, one, we must ask that you discern between that other panther-like species and us because of the regression that has taken place. And two, just know that some of the ideas that have come into your head are us communicating with you, either in dream form or in daydream form or imagination form. This does not mean that you will not make your own tweaks and adjustments to those ideas. This would be a violation of free will if we did not allow this. Just know your ideas that come through are also a form of telepathic contact with our species. Thank you.
Thank you. That actually really helps me out personally because I've been told that some of my guides are from this group, but in all honesty, I never actually see them. And I do see some of my other guides, but I never actually do. But I think with some of the work that I'm doing, I think I can validate that they are very actively a part of the information that is coming to me. This actually helps me out a lot. So thank you guys very much.
Mm-hmm. Yes, these particular ideas are indeed from our people. The reason you cannot see us is we have narrowed our bandwidth to a frequency that only encompasses the heart space. Even though you are in the heart space, we have narrowed the bandwidth even further. Not necessarily just to hide. Hide is not necessarily the word. We wish to keep ourselves active in the human community, but we also wish to bring people into the heart space. But are we evading the military-industrial complex that way as well? Yes, we are.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much. This is actually, believe it or not, quite a long channel for them, so I know we need to let them go. But thank you guys so much for coming by and chatting with us all today. And I'll just ask Chris if you want to kind of come out of this for a second, and if you have any last words you want to say.
Yes, I deal with the Lyran people on quite a regular basis. This is actually a longer channeling than they usually bring through, so they're at great risk to themselves. I know there are others around, I just cannot see them at the moment. So Sorlon and Phalal are waving at the moment, and they're both saying, and I can feel a whole group of them saying, blessings to everyone here, and they will further communications in the not too distant future. And they're reminding everybody that they do communicate with people on a regular basis, as well as other ET races. The air is full of information, and they are a contributor to that information. So is there anything else, guys? No, you're good. Okay, they're having to just go and fade off. So thank you everybody for watching this episode of a talk with the Galactics. Goodbye, everybody.
Hi, guys. See you later.